Hello and welcome to Coffee with Keerthi. Today we have somebody who has taken a very different path in his life. His name is BK Shrinidhi, and he has been living in the Brahma Kumaris International Center at Mount Abu, and I've known him for quite some years. We worked together earlier, and he's always been a guy who is righteous, first of all, a very good human being, and very, very unconventional. So today we'll be talking about how his outlook towards life, because at Coffee with Keerthi I try to bring different kinds of people, startup founders, leaders, change makers, and he's one of those change makers we will be talking to. So Srinidhi, welcome to Coffee with Keerthi. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very good, Keerthi. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here, and also I'm very happy to see you after so many years. And indeed, it is always good to be amongst friends. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Srinidhi. Thank you. So we'll dive directly into the questions, Srinidhi. So starting with the background, I want to understand you have been a management professional, and you moved into a very, very different path. You chose a path that very few of us take, and it's not a very easy path to take. And but I think everyone has a purpose to serve, right, on this earth. So tell us about the background. Why BK? Why Brahma Kumaris, and how that happened, and what is your view towards doing that?
Yeah, I guess it's a very big question. It pretty much sums up my entire life so far, I think. But I've been living here in Mount Abu at the Brahma Kumaris headquarter for more than 12 years now. And yeah, how it happened, of course, it's a big story, but I would cut it short. I would say from ever since childhood, I was always inclined to spirituality. These were things that interested me. And that is what I had always explored. And also in the family, since we came from a family who were very religious, and at the same point of time were also spiritual. They were open-minded to exploring new ideas. And especially my mother was very spiritual. My grandfather was a very religious person. So with that kind of family background, there was a lot of nurturing that happened. And it was nothing was thrown upon you, because it was not that it is coming from a seat of authority and you have to accept it.
Right.
Let's say you have to worship, you have to go to a temple. It was not mandatory for you. It was not something that somebody's asking you to do it and you have to do it. But it was more as a choice. It was more often given as an understanding that you have to understand things first, why we are doing it. Only when you have a personal connect with it, only then you are required to do something.
Absolutely.
So that kind of openness really allowed me to explore things. So when I was very young, we had Muslim neighbors. So I would go to my friend's house, and he would be learning Arabic. So I would also learn with him. So I was very young. So my mother never stopped me, or my parents, or my grandparents, for that matter, my grandfather. He never objected to that. So there was, even with having a background of our own religious beliefs and stuff, there was an openness to learn more things, to understand more things, probably different perspectives that people had. So this kind of openness led to my initiation to meditation as well, which I found very interesting, because meditation, like science, believed in a lot of experimentation. Nothing was just believed because it was written in the book. Everything had to be experimented for yourself to try and test yourself, and that is what I found very soothing for myself. And this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted more people to come to this understanding, to have a better understanding of things and not be divided amongst ourselves, but to find things that unite us as people of this planet. So that is what actually brought me to the Brahma Kumaris. Of course, there are many things, but this is what is very dear to me, that that brought me to my own understanding of who I really am and how we are all connected to each other as a family.
Understood, understood. So talking about, connected to each other, right? I really take a lot of inspiration from the movie Avatar, right? In which the people of that planet are connected to the soil of that planet, right? And there's a lot of things that they talk about, and there's a lot of spirituality. It just, when I watch that movie, it feels that this was supposed to be made in India or something like that, right? What no, it just connects the whole dots, right? They talk about connecting with the nature, connecting with Mother Earth, and with the planet that they're living on, right? Now, what is that which keeps you going every day, in terms of spirituality? How do you, what is your outlook? And also a follow-on question, Srinidhi, is why should people, whether young or old, consider spirituality more over religion? I for one think that religion is a stepping stone towards becoming more spiritual, right? Spiritual is connecting with the supreme being, right? And it has no religious barriers in those. So why should, so the follow-on question is, why should somebody take a path of spirituality?
Hmm.
What is your outlook about spirituality, and uh, why should somebody take up spirituality seriously?
Yeah. What keeps me going is, of course, there's new things to be found,
Mm-hmm.
because, like science would say, um, please excuse me because I find a lot of parallels between science and spirituality, because
Yes.
that is what has interested me. I've been a student of science, but then that similarity keeps me moving.
Right.
It's about always exploring
Right.
the newer horizons.
Right.
I believe that is something which has motivated humanity
Right.
uh, to experiment with new things, to explore uncharted waters,
Right.
step into those regions which we do not see what it is,
Right.
but to want to see more, to do more,
Right.
to experiment more, to experience more. And spirituality gives you that dimension. And I believe science has a restriction, because then you need to have a certain education, you need to have a certain amount of qualification, a certain amount of experience to step into uncharted waters and to go on exploring. But spirituality, on the other hand, allows each one to do that from the very comforts of their own home. It does not matter whether you are educated, or whether you are illiterate, whether you are old, whether you are inexperienced, whether you are young, whether you are a child, whether you are a teenager. It does not matter.
Right. Right.
So there is this kind of freedom that spirituality brings you to, that it does not restrict anyone on the basis of your age or your experience or your education, let alone the skin of your color or your religion, which do not matter at all.
Right.
So that is what is keeps me going, because I tend to explore more, and I've always been an explorer for that matter. I've always wanted to learn more.
Right.
I've always had a keen edge towards knowing a little bit more every day.
Right.
And when you have that kind of perspective to life, and when you look things with spiritual perspective, um, there is a lot more that you see from a situation from what there is visible.
Right.
I guess it is true that what beholds your eye is what is appearing in front of you, but like people say, what you see is the tip of the iceberg, but then there is a whole thing underneath the surface, and spirituality allows you to see those things.
Okay.
It gives you that kind of vision. It gives you that kind of understanding. Many people in spirituality talk about the third eye. Um, Third eye is not that somebody would have a physical eye manifesting here on the forehead. No, what it actually means is developing this inner insight, developing this greater understanding of things, of seeing the unseen, of seeing things beyond what is visible, beyond the visible pictures of our skin, of our bodies, and of situations as well. So that interests me, and every day is a new learning in spirituality, and that's what keeps me going. And the second question that you said is why one should explore spirituality is if you are an adventurer, you should explore spirituality. If you are seeking something, then you should come to spirituality. Even if you're not seeking something, then it is also a territory that might interest you. It might often I quote the Vedas here, where the initiation of the Vedas happened because atato brahma jigyasa, that there is this curiosity. If you just want to satisfy your curiosity, or if you want to nurture that curiosity, you should explore spirituality. Or for that matter, if I have to give a simple answer, I would say like what Sir Edmund Hillary said when he was asked, why do you want to climb the Everest? He said, because it is there, because the mountain is there. So it is just the reason, because it exists in the world. And for that reason, we should understand and explore spirituality. But my own personal answer, I would say, is spirituality is needed today because we live in a world that is too often too dark, too divided, too much into cat fights and dog fights. Not that we should label cats and dogs with fights, but we human beings tend to fight more than these animals. And today we are in a worse of conditions in spite of so much of religion, so much of new teachings available to us, so much of scientific advancement. We are not as happier beings as we should be. With the kind of comforts that we have, we were supposed to be more joyous beings, more joyous people to be around with, but we see that the reality is not so. We tend to be more sadder and more depressed and more stressed and more tired nowadays. So it is important that spirituality thins out these differences that we have. It gives you a better way of living. It allows you to explore and experiment with nicer ways of being, better ways of dealing with people and with the environment around. And it makes you a better human being, a whole human being, where we could bring peace to the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us about, again, two questions I want to ask you is, one is the philosophy of Brahma Kumaris. What, the philosophy, how can one align with that? And two, a lot of people are not even aware of, spirituality. They are, we're all, that could be me also, right? We're all living in a material world, in a rat race, trying to gain more wealth, trying to, just focus on material, right? So where is the starting point? Where is somebody, who doesn't even know that spirituality exists? That, because we are always exposed to religion, right? In India, at least, we are exposed to religion right from day one when we are born. Whether it's Hindu, Muslim, Christian, any religion, we're exposed to all these ceremonies. So we understand, religion, but we are not exposed to spirituality. Not all of us. Very few of us get lucky, right? So how does one get into that, that angle of life? So two things. One, the philosophy of BK, and two, how to find that first step. Where do I start?
I think the philosophy of the Brahma Kumaris is very simple. There are many aspects to it, but I would want to point out a few things. One of the first things is we all know that we live in a world which needs betterment. We all need to create a better world for ourselves and for the coming times, and for, of course, younger generation as well, who look up to So in our efforts of creating a better world, the Brahma Kumaris philosophy is very simple. It says that if I change, the world changes with me. So you are the source of the change. If you want anything in the world, it begins with you. And this is something which I find very powerful, something which is very enabling, that it gives me so much of power and brings me to such a responsible position. I don't have to be a world leader. I don't have to be a business magnate. I don't have to be founder of a company. I don't have to be anything else. Each one of us, whomsoever we are, wherever we are, whatever we are, we are. We exist. We are special in our own ways. And each one of us contribute to the world. What I think, what I do, what I eat, what I speak, how I act, all of our interactions creates a whole sum of what the world is experiencing today. To give a simple example is, if I'm a happier person, if I'm a peaceful person, I would be more peaceful in my interactions. If I'm happy, then I will also make my family members happy. Maybe I make my friends happy, my parents happy, my spouse happy, or my children happy, or my neighbors happy for that matter. So this is how we are. Some of us are more happier compared to others. Some of us are more peaceful compared to others. So each one has this individual speciality. And that is what makes us us. And if we appreciate and understand those things in our real self, then we would be in a better position today. So the philosophy of the Brahma Kumaris is to understand this innate goodness that lies in everybody's heart. So innately, we are all the same. We all shine in the same way. And if we understand that innately we are connected and that is how we are, then we would create a better world. And of course, the other thing that you were asking about is how should one person start? I believe religion, the base of all religion is spirituality. And it all began as a spiritual quest, but in the process of our journey, we have kind of lost of our journey's original steps. And when we have lost our past, we have also lost our future. All the religions talk about good things, and they preach good things. They ask you to be a good person. But what does get lost is, for the sake of the messenger, the message is lost. So all the prophets, all messengers, all the founders of great religions, whether it be Buddha or Christ or Prophet Muhammad or Lord Mahavira or Guru Nanak Dev or anybody whom you name it, everybody has taught good things. And they all pointed out to the same message, that we as human beings are one big world family. We are all connected to one. The Lord is one, the Creator is one. And that is what the message was. But we have forgotten that message and we have held on to the messengers. So that is where confusion lies, because we no longer see the similarities between us, but we see the differences. And so it is important to return to the message. And how one should start, I believe, if you're a religious person, it is a good way to start. If you are not a religious person, if you do not believe in God, or if you do not believe in any religion, then absolutely you are in a good shape to start with spirituality, because then you are a clean slate. You don't have anything else to rub off. So you can always make a fresh start, and it is nice to have a fresh cup of coffee than to reboil something, redo things. And since you say it is coffee with Keerthi, I should mention coffee.
Oh God.
Everybody knows that what happens when you reboil the coffee, and if you want to redo the coffee, it takes a lot of hard work. So a fresh brew is always easier. But if you start from a religious point of view, one has to keep an open mind. One has to understand spirituality with the open mind of embracing things. It is important to ask questions in spirituality, which is the very foundation of both spirituality and science. To ask questions. because if you don't ask questions, then probably you'll not find answers. So asking questions is important, but at the same point of time, to have an open mind. To start with spirituality, you could just go to any school of meditation, any thought of spirituality, read spiritual books, and explore. Exploration is the basis of spirituality. So you start asking those questions, look for things. The basis of spirituality has always been this question that who am I? Why I'm here? And the basis of science is also the same. Scientists often wondered that why are we here? How is this world? So since it begins there, so you should start from asking those questions, and there are answers available. And more the person goes into self-exploration, the more answers the person can find.
Wow, wow, that's very well put. I think it all starts with curiosity, right? If you have the curiosity, then I think and I think that is the base for knowledge also. If you want to gain more knowledge, you have to be curious about things. So moving on, I know we don't have a lot of time with you. You're a busy man. So I'm going to quickly ask a couple more questions. So you also are a facilitator for this Spotlight Values Workshop, which is part of the UN International thing that you do. And you specifically do with a focus on green things called compassion in action. So tell us about that. What do you do in terms of working with the UN and facilitating that workshop?
Actually, this was a project that we took up as a part of the United Nations International Year of Youth. Okay. And this was the Brahma Kumaris offering to the United Nations for the celebrations of the International Year of Youth. And we developed these workshops for better understanding of what is good amongst us. Mm-hmm. We know that we all are innately good. There is goodness in each one of us. Mm-hmm. I believe even the worst amongst us, whom we think that we are of no good, even in that person we will find something good. Mm-hmm. That person would also have something which is valuable, and we call them human values or moral values. Right. The values of peace, of love, courage, of hope, of caring. There's so many that we can see amongst each one of us. You will not find one human being on this planet who would not have a value. Right. So that goodness lies within us. And the purpose of Spotlight Values was to focus on what is valuable in us, what is good in us. And if we put our focus there, then we will all shine. We will all bring out better light and better things out of us. Awesome. And of course, there is also the environment initiative of the Brahma Kumaris, where the Brahma Kumaris actively participate in a lot of United Nations conferences as observers and having a consultative status with a lot of UN bodies like ECOSOC, like UNICEF, like the United Nations Environment Program, and also the UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, United Nations Convention on Biodiversity. So there's a lot of platforms where the Brahma Kumaris are affiliated to the United Nations and work in collaboration wherever there are opportunities to work with. But also the Brahma Kumaris bring the faith-based understanding of human behavior that is important to bring about a greater change in the human behavior that we want to see in the society and our interactions with the nature and the planet. So we all know that that once you are a spiritual person, people think that, okay, he will talk about life and philosophy and these kind of things. But that is a label that we would want to undo with. That is a label that we would want not to be attached to anything, because spirituality wants people to understand the basic realities of life, to make a person a better human being, a more rounded human being. Okay. And more the person is spiritual, the better his or her understanding becomes, whether it is business decisions or policy making decisions or whatever it might be. Absolutely. So we believe that our interaction with the planet, our consumption patterns, how we take things from nature. Many years ago, we had a great deal of respect for nature. We would not waste things. We would not go on over consuming, over shopping. We would not become addicts to things. But now these things have come in because how I think inside, how my thought patterns are, impact my decisions as well. So everything starts with the awareness of what am I aware of, what is my original intent, what is my purpose. If I look at my thoughts, how I think, what the purpose of that thought is, what my intentions are, then probably I will change my words, I will change my actions as well. Because as it is said that your thoughts become your words and your words become your action and your actions become your behavior. And of course, your behavior becomes your character.
Absolutely.
So if we want to bring about change, then probably we have to go back with the principle of regression and come to the original beginning, where it all begins. It begins in your mind. It begins with who you are and how you think. And if you change that, a lot of things can indeed change.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm looking at the clock ticking. So I want you to quickly run us through one last question. Is you do a lot of work. You are working at the health center for you work there as deputy manager, training and development at Global Hospital Research Center. That's the main work that you're doing, and you also teach English and computers at the educational institutions that Brahma Kumaris is running. Plus, you also do anchoring. So you are a radio jockey and voiceover artist at Radio Madhuban 90.4 FM, right? And you are a television presenter and host at Peace of Mind TV. So quickly tell me about the work that you're doing in terms of, so I have 1 minute, okay, for you. So tell me about your radio jockey work and also, I think you're anchoring BK Shivani's sister, who is a great inspiration for all of us. So tell us, because you talk to her, right in front of, her face to face, I'm sure she carries an aura with her, and you are touched with that also. So tell us about that quickly.
I believe it's a very big question now.
Yes.
Rather, I would say when you have this faith in you that you are doing something good and you want to do something good for the benefit of others, you're no longer selfish when you think about everyone, when you think about not just the limited boundaries that you have. When you connect to the divine, when you connect to the supreme, you access the unlimited, because the divine is unlimited, and the divine reminds us about this thing, that each one of us is unlimited. We all have unlimited capacities and capabilities, and if we only realize our inner potential, if we realize who we really are, we are not what we appear in front of us. We are not just this body, but we all are that divine energy inside. And if we come to that understanding, then we open unlimited doors and windows of opportunities, and we don't even understand who we are. There are so many things that we are capable of, and there's so much that we all have inside us. Right. So that is what enables us to do that.
Right. Right.
So all of these are expansions of that.
So what happened was, this is actually the part 2 of interviewing Shrinidhi. What happened was, yesterday we were doing the interview, and because there was no time, so we had to discontinue. So we're just continuing with the same thing. So Srinidhi, going forward, we were talking about you doing the anchoring of the TV show. You talk to Shivani's sister, and you're also part of Madhuban FM radio. So tell us about that, right? How that's, what you do there, and because you bring a lot of for a lot of audience, you bring a lot of good content, because when Shivani's sister starts talking, there's a lot of, I really follow her. She inspires a lot. So how is it to be interviewing her and all of that? You're on the other side of the table this time.
Actually, I don't mind being on any side of the table, this side or that side. I don't really get to choose sides for that matter, but I thoroughly enjoy being on both sides.
Nice.
More so much in your chair, because then all you need to do is ask questions. It's the easiest part, I believe.
Yeah.
And I also understand it is not as easy as it appears, because I've been there, and being the host of a show really requires a lot of things.
Right.
I think one of the important aspects that I have learned while being part of the media services of the organization is there is so much needed from people, and each one of us has his or her own specialities, and we in the Brahma Kumaris believe in a concept of seva. The English translation of the word does not do justice, because when we say service, there are a lot of different interpretations that is open in the spectrum, and for everything we use the same word service. But in Indian languages, the word seva encompasses a selfless service. It is about not expecting anything in return, doing it out of love, out of a greater feeling of benevolence and the feeling of giving and offering something. So that is what the concept of seva is. So when we always believe that here in the organization, even if you might not have the abilities or capabilities of doing something, by just offering yourself to that kind of seva, that ability is nurtured in you, that grows upon you, and you slowly learn from it. And because you're doing it selflessly, it allows a nobler way of learning things, where the real intent of learning, the real purpose of learning is not to achieve something, or not to showcase something, or not to create something out of you, but as an offering, as a selfless way of doing things and giving things back to society, to the world, and offering things to the Almighty, makes it grow on you with such greater possibilities that you might not even know that what you are capable of doing. And that is something that has happened to me as well, because I had never imagined myself to be in the position of being a radio jockey, or being a television host, or a newsreader, or anything that I'm doing today. I think all of that had happened only because we said yes to service, we said yes to seva, and even though we did not know, we allowed ourselves into the hands of Providence, and allowed the divine to take care of us, and allowed the divine to nurture us to the capabilities that we might have or we might not have, and to instill those things if we did not have, and rightfully those things have happened. And I believe when I get to interview people, of course, each person is special, and some of us are fortunate enough to be in company of great souls who have inspired millions, who have been a force of hope and courage, of love, of joy to millions on the planet. And naturally, in their presence, you feel those vibrations as well. Right. So they're not just here talking about things, they're not just here talking or trying to just tell people what to do, but in their just presence, you feel their being. You understand what they have embodied, what they have really applied on themselves, and how they really carry themselves around, not in a manner of speaking about their physical appearance or how they physically carry themselves, but that their entity, that their spiritual existence influences you in such a way when you walk into that sphere. So nobody remains untouched by it. In the world today of media images and about branding and how do you say it, where people are creating their own brand values with their personas. But there are other kind of people here who do not care for those things.
Right.
Their very presence influences other people, where they do not want to influence others at all. So these are experiences that one gets to have when you are in the company of these people. Their greatness is that they do not want to influence you. And in that process, you learn so much from them, you absorb so much from them. So it is always, like I say, it is always a blessing to have good people amongst you.
Wow. That's actually quite inspiring when you say, there are some great souls who don't really do things to influence you. It's just, they're just doing their seva, and you get inspired, you get influenced. And I think that's very true. There's a lot of, I feel that around you there's a lot of compassion, there's a lot of love and all. It just, when you speak outwards, it just comes out, and I can totally kind of relate to that, right? So, um, well, so, so Srinidhi, tell me about things like you've been practicing this Raj Yoga meditation for quite some time. I don't know, maybe 2 decades now, right? More than that, for more than 20 years. I'm pretty sure about it, right? So tell me about that. Tell me about that experience, right? What it is, what it entails, and how it enriches your life, and how can somebody who's thinking of meditation should take on this path. And they don't have to, when you talk about meditation, they don't have to leave their everyday routine, but follow something for a little bit of their time within that 24 hours they have. So tell me about that Raj Yoga meditation.
Yoga is very simple. Everybody has heard about yoga, and ever since the past few years, now we have an international day of yoga. Everybody
Right.
tends to talk about yoga,
Right.
which is in fact a very good thing. And yoga has been a gift of India to the world and to everyone, for
Right.
that matter. Many people understand yoga as a physical practice. It is more like a physical exercise, is what many people believe. But in the scriptures of India and in the books of India, um, there are mentions of yoga otherwise as well. For that matter, Bhagavad Gita talks about yoga, and there are chapters on karma yoga, um, and different kinds of yoga, bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga. So if you would consider a holy book of the Hindus talking so much about yoga, then it is not just the physical aspect of it. So yoga has a very greater spiritual foundation to it. And most of us understand the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali as the basis of yoga, but it is not true. Um, since Yogeshwara is a word that is affiliated to both the Lord of Gita and also to Lord Shiva. So there is a lot of religious interconnection between yoga as well in India, of course. So yogic practices are very ancient, and in India, people have practiced it for a very long time, not just the physical aspect, but the other deeper aspect that we do not explore today. Some of us do, but some of us do not know much about it. So Raja Yoga is the practice of, like the word says, Raja Yoga. It means Raja means the king of yogas. So what it actually teaches us is the word yoga means to connect. And here Raja Yoga teaches you to connect with your own self. It is to understand who you really are, to your inner innate self, that pure being that you are. And also, once you connect to your own self, then it allows you to access the divine, to connect to the divine, to connect to the supreme. And this connection is called as Raja Yoga. So only when a person realizes his true inner self, then he or she can connect to the supreme. And when you connect to the source, that is the divine, then naturally you have unlimited access to all kinds of things. Of course, one of the basic things that we all are made up of is no matter who we are, what kind of religion we follow, where we were born, what kind of education we have, how much money we have, where we live does not matter, because all of us, wherever we are, whomsoever we all crave for the same kind of love. We all want the same kind of joy. We all want to experience happiness. We all want a peaceful life. So these are the basic necessities that we crave for. These are the things that we look for wherever we are.
Absolutely.
So the reason why we look for these things is because that is what we are made up of. So our true religion is not whether I'm a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or a Sikh or a Jain or a Buddhist. No, these are not our religions. Our actual religions are peace, love, happiness, knowledge, wisdom. All of these things are what we are made up of, and that is the reason why we are constantly drawn to these things. And Raja Yoga teaches you these things, that if you realize your true self, if you have this correct understanding, then you can draw all of these powers, the power of love, of joy, of happiness, of peace, of power. You can draw all of these energies from the Supreme, who is the ocean of love and ocean of peace. And we have always worshipped God in such a ways that we always consider him or her on a non-gender basis, when we consider God as our parent, as our friend, as a companion. So we have worshipped the Almighty with different relationships, but it is also time for us to experience those relationships. And Raja Yoga allows you to have that constant connection, to experience that personal connect with the Almighty and the Divine. So you can experience that connection and also draw the powers of the Divine to you. And naturally, when you have that kind of connect, it certainly enriches you.
Wow.
So that is what Raja Yoga is about. And the more you connect, the more you draw, the more you experience, the more you feel fulfilled. And you're filled in with more of love, more of joy, more of happiness, more of everything for that matter. So that is what you do.
Awesome, awesome. There's so much to learn from you. I'm really fortunate that I am connected to you, and I am thankful to God that friends like you enrich my life with some of these things that we normally don't come across from normal life. It's very difficult for people to really get out of the rut and talk about things that really matter, because even this pandemic that is going on now has actually taught us quite a lot of good things. Obviously it's not a good thing that has happened, because a lot of lives have been lost, a lot of people have lost their beloved ones, but to just reset the whole whole life in a way, I think quite a lot of good things have happened, and people like you have been adding a lot of great value. So you also are a Vihasa facilitator. What does that mean? What does Vihasa mean? And what is it?
Interesting question. Actually, these are all parts of the different roles that a person plays. And I think professionally, since I work in a hospital, the Brahma Kumaris developed in the year 2009 a concept called Vihasa. It is an acronym actually. It stands for Values in Healthcare, a Spiritual Approach. One of the things that we see in the healthcare profession is hospitals are not happy places to work with. If you might realize,
Yes.
Hospitals have a very high level of stress around them. People working in the hospital experience that kind of stress levels, is because nobody comes to us with a happy face. Anybody who comes to a hospital is either suffering a physical ailment or a mental condition, or family members who are worried and anxious about their family members who are brought into hospital. So it's not a very happy environment to work with, because there is so much of anxious thoughts that come in with people. They come with their own emotional baggages, and that kind of environment is also created around patients in the hospital. So people who naturally deal with life in that situation every day, day in and day out, kind of get affected by it. It's like if you're constantly bombarded with that levels of stress and anxiety, even though you want to heal people, you end up being sick on your own account.
Correct.
So to help healthcare professionals to deal with these traumas or these situations that they encounter at workplace, this module was developed by the inspiration of the former chief of Brahma Kumaris, Dadi Janki. So the Janki Foundation London developed this program for healthcare professionals where they could manage their lives better by using human values of peace, courage, compassion, love. So all of these human innate values could be used as an antidote for our day-to-day damage that we suffer, and so that we could replenish ourselves day in and out. And like you said, anybody could practice these things. So Raja Yoga meditation does not ask you to give up on anything. It doesn't ask you to let go of your job or your family or your relationships or anything. All that it asks you is you devote a certain amount of time, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes during the day. And if you like it, probably do it whilst you're working. So it doesn't require you to go and sit at a different place. So Vihasa, as we call it, the values and spiritual approach, was a practical experimentation of bringing spirituality to workplace. So it was not about being spiritual, meaning that, oh, you would go to the mountain, sit there and meditate. Secluded place to meditate. No, you could meditate wherever you want. You could meditate in the comfort of your home. You could meditate in your cabin when you're working, or you could meditate even while working itself. So this is a practical approach of bringing Raj Yoga into action.
Nice, nice, nice. So, I've seen a lot of people, who stress about meditation also. Meditation should be not a stressful thing, right? And a lot of people kind of get stressed that, I need a place where there is nobody who's disturbing me. There is, there's a clear, what do you call, like a seclusion and things like that. I think it's more about creating that awareness within yourself, right? It's all about understanding yourself, right? So I was listening to a monk from Tibet or somewhere, I don't remember, but he said that awareness. I'm talking about awareness, right? He said, "Do you know you're aware?" He asks the crowd, right, on the stage. He's asking people that, "Do you know you're aware?" Some people say, "Yes, I know that I'm aware." So that means you're aware. And do you know you're not aware? He asks that question. And some people say, "Yes, I think I'm not aware." So he says, knowing that you're not aware is also an awareness, right? And the third set of people, are you in the state of mind where you think you are in a maybe situation where you think I'm aware? You know that you are maybe aware. That means you are aware. You're aware that you are maybe aware, right? So I want why am I talking about awareness is because when we were talking yesterday about a lot of spirituality and stuff, we talked about awareness, right? Tell us more about that. What it is, to understand oneself. And this is the last question that I have for you, because I want to know, because this is a very, very crucial part of meditation, of spirituality and stuff, right? Awareness, right? Tell us about
Yeah, I think one of the bases of spirituality is self-realization. It's about many people start with this question. There are many sages and many meditators who have meditated over the centuries, and all of their spiritual quests and their journeys began with this question: "Who am I?"
that. Right.
And for all human understanding, that we know that we are more than what we appear.
Right.
And we often say this, that what you appear is not what you really are. There is so much more to it.
Absolutely.
There are layers and layers of things that are hidden beneath the surface that we see.
Right.
And for this reason, we have asked this question. We have gone into self-inquiry, and that self-inquiry has given you a great deal of answers. And India as a country has, for millennia, understood this value of self-inquiry and about going inside and finding treasures there. One of my favorite poets is Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi. Um, he says that why are you so enchanted by the world outside? Look within. You are sitting upon a mine of jewels. So seldom do we realize that we inside hold such great treasures that we are just so much outward looking that we want to be amazed by things outside. And I think, like you were mentioning about the lockdown and about the pandemic, many of us have been brought to our knees, not in literal sense, but emotionally and mentally, is because we were so used to looking at things outside, wanting an escape, weekend getaways, small bits and pieces of vacations, and here and there of partying, and trying a place where we could just vent out. So everything was external now. And now suddenly we have been confined to our own houses or our own homes or wherever limited societies that we live in. So we have been forced to rethink about our aspects of going inside. So the awareness part that the Raj Yoga meditation teaches is who you really are. So if I have to put it in very simple terms, if I ask you who you are, the question, it appears very simple to us, and you would say, I am Keerthi. But if you would ask the same question to a nursery kid, a kid who is going to kindergarten, if you'd ask you, who are you? He would say, or she would say, that my name is Keerthi. So there is a difference between what a kindergarten kid would answer and what we would answer. The correct question for saying my name is Keerthi, the correct question is, what is your name?
Correct.
So what your identity is you are just trying to tell your name. So the correct question is, what is your name? And the answer for that is, my name is Keerthi, or I am Keerthi.
Right.
So what you really are, you're not really Keerthi, it is just your name. It is just an identity. It's just like an ID card that I have. Absolutely. Maybe the government would give me an ID card, or the place where I work would give me an ID card. So it is an identity, but that is not what you are.
Absolutely.
So, so this is how we have to shift our awareness. So we think that our awareness about these simple questions about who you are is not your name. And if you would go a little further backtrack yourself and see, the body is what many people think that I am. Many people would say I'm a human being. And if you would say, if you are a human being, which part of the human body are you?
Yeah.
So many people say, just like I said, when I said, my name is Keerthi, the name belongs to me. That is the reason I use the preposition my. So it is something that belongs to you. It is not that you are Keerthi. The name belongs to you. You are not the name.
Absolutely.
The same applies to our whole body. If we look at ourselves as a body, then when you have a body ache, you say that my body hurts. So you again use the same purpose. You use the same word "my" to describe the body. So the body belongs to you. So if you would look at the parts of the body, every part of the body, you would say my eyes, my nose, my ears, my face, my stomach, my abdomen. Yeah. Everything, the whole body is yours. So everything belongs to you. So that is not what you are. Yeah. It is not you. Right. So this is where the question comes to a startling point where you suddenly realize that the image that you would see every day in the morning in the mirror is not you. Is also something which is on the surface. There is something beyond. There is something inside that tells you that there is something that you are. So this identity, this awareness of you're not just the body, but you are something beyond that. And when we answer this question that I am a human being, there are two parts to it. There is the human part to it, and there is the being part to it. So when you say the human part is of the body, the human body, that is what the Latin word humus is the root word for human. And the word humus means soil or earth. And this body comes from the earth. This comes from the elements of the planet. So that is the reason the humus creates the body of the human body. So the human body part is there, but then there is also a conscient being. There is the being part, that is the aware part, that is the part that who you really are, which is not visible to these eyes, which is not available to be physically experienced, but only to be experienced with a different level of awareness. So that awareness is what is important. That is what you really are. So that is why we also poetically say things. We say things like beauty is skin deep. So how deep is that beauty really? How many inches inside the skin is what a skeptic might ask. But what we really mean to say poetically is beauty is not what is visible on the surface, but it is something which is inside. It's about that being. How is that being? Is that being peaceful? Is that being more loveful? Is that being more joyful? These are the things that are the real identities of that real being. And there is also these ways of that we say that beauty lies in the eyes of beholder. So who is the beholder? The eyes do not see beauty. There is somebody who beholds that beauty inside. And that jewel, that innate being is who is really the master of this body. And in spirituality, people have called it as the soul, the jiva, the atman or the atma, or the ruh or the spirit. So many people have called it with different names, and that is what our real identity is. And if we look at our identities as souls, as spirits, as these conscient energies and beings, then we are all the same. So our skin color does not matter, our education does not matter, our castes does not matter, religions do not matter. So we recognize each other as the same individual, as the same being, as the soul that I am, that I reside in this body. The other person is also a soul, and he is also made up of the same things, and he also looks for the same things of love, peace, joy, of happiness. So it becomes easier with that awareness to look at each other. So I look at you as a conscient being. If I understand that Keerthi is also like me, he's also a soul, and he is also this being of love. He's also this being of joy. He's also this being of peace. So in my interactions, I would be more loveful to you. I would be interacting with more peace with you. So I would not look at just the physical things of how you carry yourself, but I see who you really are.
Absolutely. I for one, I think I can just keep listening to you. I don't want to ask you any questions. I can just keep listening to you and just go in trance. If you keep talking like this, I'll go in trance. I will become the monk that nobody has seen. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate Srinidhi for coming on Coffee with Keerthi. And like you said, it's very important for a lot of us to understand that when you differentiated the word human and being, I think the being part is really, really important part which we are losing out. And I think now that we are confined to our homes, there will be in future that we will be confined to our own body, and then we will slowly go inside, right? Which is really, really important. Like you said, um, uh, there is a treasure inside us, inside each one of us, right? I think that's the part that we really, really need to explore. But here's a thank you you because we have to end this show now. Thank you so very much for coming on Coffee with Keerthi. I really, really appreciate that you spent time with us and you shared all the things that I've never heard of. Thank you, really, I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and it was indeed a pleasure to come back to you. And of course, it is always a pleasure to be amongst friends. But then sometimes there are different aspects of life that we do not discuss, we do not talk about, even though they are important and close to heart. So it is always important to dive within and to explore newer things that make this world a better place. And thank you. And I'm really delighted that I got a chance to come talk to you here on things that are really close to my heart. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Shrinidhi. Thanks a lot. Thank you so very much.